Well, surprise, surprise, it's me again. I'm gonna probably knock these spiritual gifts thing out in a day or two, and we'll let people that are more in depth, Bible scholars, kind of go through the details. But y'all know me, and this is just like you sitting down with me, so I'm going to tell you about word of knowledge and maybe word of wisdom, maybe in the same thing. I kind of think they kind of go hand in hand, and we got to get to healing and miracles and demons. So we got ground to cover. Won't get it all done today, but word of knowledge. I'm going to break this into two ideas. We're starting here with the idea, and I know I'm not with Ron, with you, and Mike and Jim and Robert and people who have been walking, Caleb, that have been doing the spiritual stuff, gifts for a long time. But at the same time, we've got people that are, ready to step out in some of this stuff. And we start with one step, and we talked about prophecy, and I want to keep it simple. I want to keep it easy. And a word of knowledge, I think, is part of the prophetic. The prophetic being related to prophecy, but prophecy being, speaking for God. But a word of knowledge and a word of wisdom often kind of go together. You almost can't get a word of knowledge and word of wisdom without doing some prophecy. I mean, they kind of go hand in hand, but they are specific. And like I said, in MMA, I didn't really break my techniques down. And spiritually, I don't break them down. I don't think, oh, well, that was a word of knowledge. That was a word. But there are differences. But again, we're going to start with the basics. And a word of knowledge is basically God dropping something into your heart that you cannot possibly know. It's divine knowledge. You could not have known it. And this is one of the most powerful evangelistic tools there is, or are. There is, yeah, whatever. Because when you know something that God gives you, then all of a sudden, at that moment, a person's heart opens up because they don't think you're speaking anymore. They think God's speaking. Because how could you know this? And it is super powerful, and it's a lot of evangelists have this gift, and they're able, and I've watched, Sean Bowles I've posted before, I watch him call out street addresses and full names and where you're from and all this kind of stuff, and there'll be somebody in the audience that's me, and if that doesn't get your attention, nothing probably will, because only God knows this kind of stuff. But I have touched the word of knowledge. And I say, on an evangelistic scale or a prayer scale, like a one-on-one scale, or just in a meeting where you say, hey, there's somebody here, and all of a sudden, bam, their heart's opened up, Again, it falls under the realm, I think, of the prophetic, which is exhortation, edification, and comfort, okay? So that's the main goals. We're not trying to manipulate anybody. We're just trying to encourage them that, hey, God sees. And if you get some futuristic thing, prophecy 202 or 303, great. But when somebody whose heart is closed or who's hurting, when God speaks to them and all of a sudden they know it's God, sometimes that's all they need to know. Does he see me? Does he care? So Hagar was Abraham's mistake wife. Sarah didn't have the baby. He married Hagar, gave birth to Ishmael, and then Sarah kind of kicked her out. And God met her in the wilderness, and she gave a name to God, the God who sees me. And sometimes a word of knowledge is what that does. Is it tells somebody, I see you. I see you. And I may have said that on the first one, whatever, but I see you. And sometimes in certain seasons or wherever you are in your life, just to know God sees you, okay? And not only see you, he loves you, he cares about you and all that kind of stuff. So a word of knowledge is just knowing something you can't know. This happens to me a lot in one-on-one ministry. If I'm praying for somebody, when I did the healing rooms with Robert Buckner, it was very common. So we had like 3 different little areas, and Jania and Marina, and you guys remember how we used to pray in Ukraine, and God would just drop a word in one of us, and just all of a sudden we knew something we couldn't know. And it was encouraging. And so again, the simple gift is for revelation, not revelation, but edification, exhortation, and comfort. And so a word of knowledge. So I'm gonna give one example from Shannon. I might give one example from me, but there was a lady that was at the Vineyard Church, and I don't know the story of her past, but it wasn't good. I mean, I would suspect she had a very hard past. Her name was Brenda. And I don't know how she and Shannon really connected. They weren't like close, but they were talking on the phone. And while they were talking, Shannon kept hearing the word teeth in her spirit, just in the still small voice, teeth. And so she's talking, and this girl, she would talk, no. A lot of insecure people kind of overtalk. And, I would probably say, well, I must be pretty insecure. But, yeah, probably so. But she kept hearing the word teeth. And so finally, after, I don't know, the 30th time of hearing the word teeth, she said, Brenda, is there something wrong with your teeth? And, of course, that led to burst into tears. And she had a lot of dental problems, and she needed to get her teeth fixed. And it was pretty severe. But it was only like $650. So after they hung up, Shannon and I talked. I said, look, let's fix her teeth. I mean, that's whatever. We can do that. And so we did. And it meant the world to her. But also our present for that was a cat, which turned out to be the only cat I've ever had that really loved me. And she died a few years ago at 18 years old. And there was one more story that had to do with an electric bill that Shannon heard again. And then we ended up with a second cat, which loved Shannon. But, it's just God wants to bless. He wants to show his love. He wants to do that. And that's what the spiritual gifts are for, And so in ministry, often when I'm praying for somebody, I'll hear something. I'll have something. I'll see something. And it'll be something I can't know. I told the story about the girl who was mothering her mom. There's lots of stories, and I don't really kind of remember all of them. But basically, the 101 step is just knowing something you cannot possibly know. And again, I'm going to put it out there, just like Shannon did. Is there something wrong with your teeth? If she had said, no, my teeth are fine, there would have been no harm done. All right. So again, we don't want to be like, thus saith the Lord, and do anything dramatic, but sometimes all you got to do is ask. You just say, hey, whatever, whatever you're hearing, and that's a word of knowledge, because if it turns out to be true, it's a word of knowledge because you couldn't have known it. All right, that's one. Now, another thing that happens, and I don't have any experiences, or I can't think of any right now, but sometimes God can give you knowledge that is beyond human ability to know. So I do know there's a story of the guy that makes the Matthews bows, like bow and arrows, and also Matthews guitars. And there's a story of him seeing like a vision of a guitar while he's laying in bed, like 4 o'clock in the morning, and it gave him a design, which became, or maybe it was a bow. But anyway, it became a bestseller. It was a new, innovative. So God can give us revelation of stuff we don't yet know. And I think a lot of the revelation we probably see today was dropped on people with some kind of divine word of knowledge. But anyway, that's all it is. I mean, you just know something. And then the word of wisdom is, what do you do with something that you know? Or God tells you to do something or don't do something that you wouldn't know to do or don't do. So I'm gonna stop this one. We'll do word of wisdom next. All right.